Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to the NYC Builds Bio End of the Year Networking Reception. We're really glad that you could join us this afternoon, and we're all celebrating the end to a very, very long year, and I know it's been that way for all of us. My name is Nancy Kelly, as most of you know, and I serve as a founding member and on the steering committee for NYC Builds Bio. And I just want to remind you that if anybody is having technical issues accessing the Zoom room or otherwise, please email info@nycbuildsbio.org or send a notice through the chat button at the bottom of your screen. And since most of you are muted during the talking point part of this networking reception, you just put something in the chat or raise your hand and we will be able to add your question to the discussion. So I want to welcome Mitch Simpler, my compatriot, to welcome all of our members here this afternoon. We've had a terrific year in terms of new members. And Carolina, can you bring up the next slide, please? So Mitch, are you there?
I'm here, alive and well.
Terrific.
Calling in from scenic, I'm actually in Chantilly, Virginia, which is right next to Dulles Airport. And anyway, so it is my pleasure to welcome both our existing members and our longstanding members, our new members, and most importantly, our prospective members. And it's an opportunity for all of us to get to know each other better and to catch up. And I want to say thank you to Nancy for doing a spectacular job this year, given the challenges that we've had with the symposium, doing everything virtually. You and the team have done just a stellar job, and it's been a real pleasure to partake and participate. And I look forward to having an opportunity to meet and revisit our existing members and new members, but most importantly, also to have a chance to chat with our prospective members. Without any further ado, Nancy, I'm going to turn it back to you and lead us through this.
Okay, well, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for jumping on. I know it's been a crazy busy day for you down there, and drive home safely tomorrow night. So first, as Mitch just said, thank you to our founding members, the 5 firms that have really been standing behind NYC Builds Bio for the last 3 years. Next slide. But also to our 29 new and renewed corporate members this year and our 50 individual members, which are shown on the next slide. So we've got nearly 80 members and people have really been participating, and we have so appreciated all of your input and all of your contributions. Next slide, please. Just recently, over the last couple of months since the symposium, we have welcomed 5 new members: Cerami Associates, DPR Construction, Langen, Anshin, and Group PMX. And most of them are with us here this afternoon, and we're glad that they are joining us. So thank you very much for coming this afternoon. Next slide. And the steering committee from all of the founding member firms have put in yeoman's work, as have a number of staff members at each of these firms who meet every week for an hour or so to discuss what's going on and to plan what's coming up. And so we thank all of them as well, and especially the Berman Group, who does all of the administrative and operational work to make these meetings run as seamlessly as they do. Carolina Brodka and Kate Harrington, and of course, Samantha, who helped to run the symposium. Next slide. And also thank you to all of you who have served on our leadership committees. I know this has been a really difficult year for meetings, but many of you have persevered and met on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, and we very much appreciate it. You see here the people who have been chairing and co-chairing the committees, and we thank all of you for your service to this organization. Next slide. So as 2020 draws to a close, it's really fitting to reflect on this tremendous year of challenge and loss that all of us in New York and around the country have experienced and are still experiencing. 2020 will long be remembered as the year of one of the most serious public health crises the US has faced, that has also triggered unprecedented economic and social upheaval. And we're grateful to New York State and New York City, to our academic medical institutions and essential workers, and to our New York City Builds Bio members and community who stepped up to the challenge and ensured that the virus was brought under control in our state and community, while forging ahead to provide protective equipment, build the necessary testing capacity, and construct new facilities that will offer protection for the future. This global crisis has really demonstrated the importance of laboratory space in life science and biotech research to develop timely, effective vaccines, but also the potential for biotech to solve many of the planetary problems associated with climate change and other issues. So we can also close the year by celebrating 2020 as a record year for life science and related industry in New York City and beyond. Two of New York City's leading biotech pharma companies, Pfizer and Regeneron, led the way to new vaccines and therapeutics for COVID-19, and their contributions were most important for the planet. But this has also been a record year for VCs raising fresh funding to bankroll biotechs post-pandemic. And a record number of funds raised money. Ginkgo Bioworks raised a $350 million ferment fund. Arch Venture Partners, Flagship Pioneering, both raised over $1 billion. Deerfield Management here in New York City raised $840 million. And you can see there other billions of dollars raised by other funds there, all for future investment post-pandemic, which bodes well for life sciences. Next slide. Pfizer also launched a breakthrough growth initiative with $500 million in additional funding, also offering new biotechs access to resources in research, clinical development, and manufacturing to focus on areas of interest for them. And this is addition to the money that private equity had already raised. Next slide. This was a record year for initial public offerings as US biotechs raised more than $11 billion to fund their programs. And several New York City companies were amongst these. Schrodinger, Black Diamond Therapeutics, Nuvation Bio, and AI Analytics all were part of the New York City cadre that completed IPOs in 2020. Next slide. A record number of New York City companies also raised substantial rounds of private equity. C16 Biosciences, Calliope, Redpin Therapeutics, Compass Pathways, Immunai, and Elevation Oncology. If you've tuned into our programming this year, you've probably heard from many of these firms and what their plans are for the future, both for developing their products, but also for the facilities that they need. Next slide. And now I'm going to ask Bill Harvey to kind of give an overview of New York City life sciences real estate.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Carolina, if you could forward to the map slide. I think it's the 4th slide in this deck. Yep, keep going. One more. Thanks, that's perfect. So I guess just to kind of set the table, when we talk about the total available inventory currently of life science properties in New York City, it's about 1.25 million square feet. And we kind of define that it's really all in Manhattan. There's a couple of different projects in Brooklyn. We almost look at that as a different market. I can circle back to that a little bit later, perhaps if there's some time. But the 1.25 million square feet that we talk about as existing inventory, and that's essentially 100% leased. You're starting at the Alexandria Center, which is kind of listed. It's right in the middle of the map. It's actually 2 buildings. It's about 750,000 square feet. And that's essentially 100% leased. That was, the 2 buildings were built, I think, in 11 and 13. Both Nancy and Mitch were involved in the development of those properties. The other projects that we talk about as existing are the New York Genome Center. It's about 175,000 square feet. That's actually where I met Nancy. Nancy's fingerprints are all over the built environment of life science in New York City. That's 175,000 square feet. In addition to the Genome Center, JLabs is also in that building, and collectively about 175,000 square feet. You've got about 50,000 square feet at Biolabs, which is at 180 Varick Street. And then you've got about 100,000 square feet, a little bit shy of 100,000 square feet at 619 West 54th Street existing. When we talk about the inventory that's coming, and in percentage terms, it's a huge increase. We've got about 1.6 million square feet of space coming in the next 12 months. Carolina, if you could go to the next slide. The first building is actually, it's King Street Properties InnoLabs building. King Street is actually the largest private landlord of lab space in the Boston-Cambridge market. They own about 2.5 million square feet. They recently acquired about 500,000 square feet in the RTP area. This is actually their first project, though, outside of the Boston market. 267,000 square feet, over 6 stories, kind of purpose-built. You'll see that there's kind of a great industrial heritage to about half the building. Instead of doing an overbuild here, they did really kind of a side build. So about half the building is existing, half is new. I've got some of the economics here. There's a full tax abatement actually on this building. Both King Street and the Deerfield project, which I'll talk about in a minute, each received a tax abatement as part of New York City Economic Development Corporation's Life Sci NYC plan. Carolina, you could switch. The other building, I've got to update the slide actually. The delivery date is actually going to slide into first quarter of next year. I think it'll be January though. This is Alexandria Real Estate Equities. Their Long Island City project. This is 180,000 square feet over 3 stories. What's very interesting here is that Alexandria is doing a science hotel on the 3rd floor. So they'll have suites ranging in size, I think from 6,800 square feet on the small side to over 10,000. So it's really pre-built space with some common amenities. I toured there a week ago, actually, with one of our tenant clients, and the space is magnificent when you're inside. It's it's a little bit of a challenge, I think, from a location perspective, especially compared to the King Street project. But once you're there, it's amazing. I would just kind of note parenthetically that Alexandria also has control of a site across the street from here. So no surprise to anyone that knows Alexandria, they're very kind of enmeshed in the campus concept. You can switch to the next slide. This is the the Deerfield building that I alluded to before. Great location, Park Avenue South at 26th Street. Deerfield is, as Nancy just mentioned, a real player in venture investing here in the city, a real emphasis on life science space. Deerfield is taking the top 4 floors of this building for its own office. The middle 3 or 4 floors, I think, are being kind of dedicated to their portfolio companies. And then the balance of the space at the base of the building is going to be made available for kind of third-party lab leasing. This is expensive space, which I think is kind of attributable to 2 different things. It's both the location, which again is just spot on, and then you're also in the Deerfield orbit, and that's something there's real value there. Next slide, please. 619 West 54th Street. It's very funny. This is actually one of the buildings that we considered for the Genome Center. It's a great building between 11th and 12th Avenue. Taconic Investment Partners, together with Silverstein, has kind of redeveloped this building. This building has seen a couple of different incarnations. It was called the Movie Lab building a long time ago, kind of a production facility for studios, but really now one of the main buildings really of life science in New York City. Taconic is also developing 125 West End Avenue, which I think will be deliver in about 2.5 to 3 years. 125 West End is at 66th Street, great location. And I think Taconic is not known as a life science real estate developer in the way that a King Street and Alexandria Biomed are, but they've gotten really smart really fast on life science. And they've actually been a player here for probably longer than anyone except Alexandria. Great space. Next slide, please. This is the Tasty building up in West Harlem. This is also, the delivery here is going to slide until next year as well. This is a little bit different in that it's I would call this kind of a lab capable building. The developer here, Janus Property, they have room for kind of that really robust infrastructure that life science companies need, but they have not gone forward to install it yet. I think that there's going to be the typical life science tenant in New York City is probably 12 to 15,000 square feet. There might be room for them here. I think, though, the developer would prefer to do larger deals in smaller quantities. Lots of rumors about Columbia University, perhaps even with CUNY, taking space here. Unclear what the breakdown of that would be, whether it's more classroom, lab, office, what have you. But a great site. Janus actually has control of a number of other properties in that area, so they've also created a really nice campus up there, and just north of Columbia University's main campus and just east of their Manhattanville campus. Next slide, please. So 525 West 57th Street, really interesting building as well, kind of a combination of 2 buildings. M zoned. I don't know, this probably isn't the right forum to talk about zoning and the importance there. M zoning is very important, though, to the development of life science properties. This is a great location, kind of, the midway point, if you will, between Columbus Circle and Taconic 619 West 54th Street. Himmel and Maringoff is the developer. Genzyme, through its LabCorp, was a tenant here. So I think when they vacated, I think they entirely vacated. They might have left a smaller footprint here, but there's a history of lab use here already. So a very, very interesting location. Next slide, please. So the granddaddy of them all. This is the Alexandria Building that I alluded to before. Essentially full. Alexandria has the ability to kind of shift tenants around a little bit. There's some thought that their project in Long Island City might be kind of the release valve, perhaps, for some of their tenants that are a bit more price conscious. But this building is essentially full. There's talk about a third property, a third tower on the same campus, which would be about 550,000 square feet. I haven't included that in this summary only because it's a little bit further out. The handful of projects that we've discussed here are all going to deliver in the next 12 months. I think that's it. There might be one more slide. Oh, 95 Green. This is actually not in the city. It's not even in the state of New York, but because it's a 10-minute commute to the World Trade Center, we've included it in our kind of in our summary. So Thor Equities, a longtime New York City developer, has gotten very interested in life science in the last 2 to 3 years. They own the Center for Excellence in Bridgewater. They've recently they took this over, I think, about a year ago from SJP, who is kind of repurposing it for life science. But really, no exaggeration to say that this is 10 minutes from the World Trade Center, 5 minutes on the path, and then a 5-minute walk. I was there about a month ago. It's really, really cool space. I think that's it for this piece of the presentation. I'm happy to, I've got a meeting in about a half hour that I'm gonna have to jump for, but I'll hang around, and I think I know many of you, but I'm happy to answer any questions going forward. And thanks again, Nancy and Mitch, for the invitation.
Thanks, Bill. Really appreciate that. And if anybody's got questions for Bill, please put them in the chat at the bottom of your screens. I also just wanted to let people know that if you missed the symposium, we had most of the developers of the properties that you just saw speaking on the first day, and they gave excellent kind of summaries of their perspective on the New York market. Very, very strong endorsement by all of them. And they were joined by Simone Healthcare Development, another member who is also doing a quite large development up in the Bronx, the Hutchinson Metro Center, right next to Einstein Medical Center. So I encourage you all to go on YouTube and to listen to those developers. It really was a very, very interesting and strong endorsement about what's going to happen in life sciences in New York. And now I want to ask Jared Toothman and Tim from Ventas to give us an idea of what's happening in the life science real estate finance market.
Okay. Jared is sharing the slide we put together. Nancy and Mitch, thanks for having us. Kind of just walk through a few transactions. I think most of these people know about, but I'll try to add flavor and a little color around them where I can. Obviously, you kind of start at the top, and the VC stuff kind of speaks for itself. You can kind of just look at, from 2017, where there are 1,950 deals to over 3,000 deals this year. That speaks to, one, the growth, but two, more importantly for this group, the need for space. I think one of the things that interests Ventas about this, the life science space, is that given everything that's kind of gone on in real estate, one thing that you cannot do is work from home when you're working in a lab. So we continue to be very bullish on opportunities in the life science space. It's the smallest part of our book right now. Senior housing is still 50% of our book, but life science is truly the growth engine, which I'll speak to shortly. So if you kind of scroll down a little bit, you look at the real estate funds that have been raised. I mean, that Blackstone Biomed deal garnered a lot of attention. They raised $14.6 billion. It was kind of a recap of their existing portfolio. I think what was most impressive to me about that is the profit realization on that deal was about $6.5 billion. And you also had a lot of the original investors who chose to stay in, which is why it was structured the way that it was. The IQ HQ deal, they've raised $2.5 billion in capital. What's interesting there is in kind of the incestuous nature of the life science business. Those are former biomed guys who continue to be successful. Don't know much about the breakthrough deal other than what you see there. Obviously, $1 billion raise is very impressive. The Ventas Life Science, our deal, we raised $1 billion fund and then seeded it with some of our existing deals to the tune of about $1.8 billion. One thing of note on our deal is that it is an acquisition deal. It's not a development fund, but we are actively looking for acquisition targets, both stabilized as well as we can do some value add opportunities as well. So it's kind of a core and a core plus fund. And again, you know, we get time, I can answer any questions on that. Continuing down, a deal that is near and dear to my heart because it took up all of my summer and most of my spring and a large part of my fall. But we finally got it closed. And that was a JV we did with GIC, which is the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund. And it was interesting because had a lot of moving pieces in this deal. We sold them a equity participation in 5 active development deals. And anybody who's done development can imagine how tough that could be. And in addition to that, we gave them a ROFR on development, some part of our development pipeline. All this is part of our Wexford portfolio. And in addition to selling them the JV interest, we also, at the same time, we're looking for construction financing. So I was in the middle of negotiating JV docs with a very sophisticated buyer, obviously, and at the same time working through 2 construction financings, also which had to get buy-in from our new partner as well as our existing partner, Wexford. So needless to say, it was very harrowing, and was very happy when we got it done. But you know, most important thing is we got it across the finish line. We got almost $500 million in fresh equity, and gave us a partner who will help us facilitate ongoing development in the space. So it kind of keeps us in the game.
Just quickly before we move on to the sales, it's worth noting on the real estate funds, this is just a small selection of funds that have really, transactions that have happened in the last, 3 to 6 months, and that are dedicated life science real estate funds. Many of the major players, the brand names, the Carlyles, Rockpoints, Nuveen, AEW, Dipco West, whomever you want to name, they may not have dedicated life science funds at this point, but they definitely have significant allocations with more open-ended, broader mandate funds that are chasing life science deals as well. So I think what we've put on the screen here is just a fraction of the real estate capital that's focused on life sciences right now.
That's a great point. There's a lot of capital chasing deals. I know as somebody whose primary function as a transactor, I can tell you that in the last probably 6 to 8 months, it's gotten very, very competitive. Seeing a lot of cap rate compression in the space, which kind of just speaks to the capital. I mean, but as I mentioned earlier, some of the other asset classes, you're kind of seeing a shift in the capital towards, life science, because some of the other asset classes, are not as attractive as they once were, specifically around hospitality, multifamily, office, retail. So, all this capital has to find a home, and, good for those in the industry, life science is really becoming that home. So yeah, I guess, and then kind of just to round it out, we just kind of talked, we just highlighted a few sales that you can see, starting at the top in terms of the actual price per square foot on down. So San Francisco, another Ventas deal, we closed on that one a couple of months ago. It was a big deal for us. $1 billion transaction, 800,000 square feet, $1,250 per square is not anything to sneeze at, but that's kind of the market out there. The Cambridge deal, Harrison Street did kind of that same price point, $1,161. And then you kind of coming all the way down is a smaller deal that we closed, and I added it because it kind of speaks to our thesis, which some people who I know this, who know me, know this. Our focus is always around university anchored or university adjacent deals. And we picked up 2 assets at NC State's campus that have a variety of tech and lab clients. And I think one thing to note there is that you look at the price per square foot in Raleigh, you're less than $500 a square foot compared to some of these other markets. And I think that for us, we're going to see more opportunities around some of these secondary markets because they can get more bang for your buck. And I think that, in a lot of cases, you know, kind of what you're seeing around the country, people are kind of getting priced out sometimes on the edges. So it's creating some additional opportunities for us in markets that we normally would not have chased. I just saw an article today talking about just how Austin is now blowing up. So it's a lot going on in life science. We've seen a lot of great opportunities. And I think I would just close to say it again, just to kind of reiterate that it's Ventas is very, very bullish on life science, and it's a huge growth engine for us. And it's what I spend probably 90% of my time working on.
Well, great. Congratulations, Tim, on closing those transactions.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Jared, for the information that you presented here. All of this is to let people know the strength of life sciences and life science real estate going into this new year and what we can expect post-pandemic. There's going to be a lot of activity and a lot of growth. So this is a relatively new organization, but we hope to grow with the market. And so we're pretty excited about that. Carolina, can you jump to the leadership committees? Do we have a slide with I thought we had a slide with the leadership committees. Here we go. So this is the part that I know everybody's been waiting for, the networking. Some of you signed up to go to specific committees, and you will be placed in those committees. Otherwise, you'll be randomly assigned to a group, and you can, have discussions there about anything you would like or some of the information we've just presented. If you want to come out and join another group, you can always exit the committee that you've been placed into, come out to the main room, and Carolina will place you in another committee of your choice. So feel free to make that transition if you want to join a committee that you have not been placed in. So Carolina, can you please place us into the leadership committees?
Is this everyone who's waiting to be reassigned?
Yeah, I think so.
How you doing, Joe?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It's cool. I've Grow has shared a couple of these events over the past year, but I haven't gotten to attend any of them. So this is it's cool to see this stuff.
Some advantages of Zoom.
Yes.
I think I was assigned to the one that you want, Joe. Looking for life sciences.
Yeah, being at an academic medical center, it felt like it made sense for me to go to that group.
Yes. We seem to be losing ranks. So that's probably a good sign. Tim, you're muted.
I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
I wonder, probably should be in the room where I'm on the, where I'm the co-chair.
Yes. I saw someone else wrote the same. Oh, I was assigned to life sciences. Good talking with you guys.
Yep, see ya.
Bye. I don't know why.
Hello? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi,
Sorry.
nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
So, yeah. Is this I just joined, had some other meeting before. What room is this? I'm just want to get a feel.
This is the main room.
Oh, main room, okay. So what do you guys do? I'm just trying to get a feel for the participants.
Well, aside from right now waiting to be put into another breakout room, I am a student and also engineer at Mount Sinai Hospital. So I work a lot with our innovation teams.
Sure.
So kind of at the very earliest stage of
Mhm.
interacting with a lot of the people that make up this group, I think.
Right. Yeah, I'm a patent attorney. I'm counsel on Lucas and McConty, IP firm
Mhm.
in New York City.
Cool. Oh, here we go. I've been assigned. See you all.
Nice meeting you.
Hi, Tim.
Hello. Yeah, I work for Ventas. We're a healthcare REIT. I source life science deals, both acquisition and development, with our development partner, Wexford Science and Technology.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, Meredith, what do you do?
Hi, I'm
Hi,
Meredith
how are you?
Joy, and I'm with TCOM. We're a technology engineering firm.
Oh, okay, great.
And so we work on the buildings and on planning for technology for the built environment.
Great. Yeah. It seems like there are a couple of breakout rooms trying to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I
okay.
must not have registered because I don't know why they just didn't put me in a room where I'm the co-chair of our committee. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure my fellow
And if
co-chairs
you in
like.
the room, you just have to join it.
Oh, I have to
'Cause you're-
join
it's
it?
like waiting
Yeah,
to
I'm gonna
join.
call.
Yeah, you don't
Mhm.
automatically get put into it. You have to join it. So I put you into the real estate subclusters group. It just says you haven't joined it yet. So you
Oh,
should
where
have
it-
gotten a. It should
I
have
didn't get
popped up on your screen.
Oh, I see that I'm joining a room too, so I'm
Uh-uh.
gonna
I didn't
go
get
do
that,
that.
Carolina.
I can't join it for you. You just have to press OK, I think, and it should send you there. And if
I
anyone
did-
else needs to join a different room, I could switch you in there. But you should have all received a prompt to join one of the rooms.
Carolina, it's Josh Rubin. I think I'm supposed to be in the life sciences room, but I haven't gotten anything. That's what I registered for.
Okay, one moment.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I didn't get a message either.
Me neither.
I would say I didn't, but I don't know that that would be true. I didn't notice one, but doesn't necessarily mean I didn't get one.
Yeah, I could
Yeah,
have missed
I should, yes, I should also qualify that.
Okay, Josh, I just sent you another request. Let me know if you received it.
Yeah, I don't see. How would I see it? I don't see anything on my screen.
It should just appear
Nope.
on your screen.
So
No.
my screen has a message that says the host has opened breakout rooms. Please wait to be assigned.
Oh, I don't even have that.
It's showing that on your screen or like in the chat area? I don't even see
The
that.
chat area above yeah, where everybody is. Not in the chat area. No, it's a separate banner at the top of my screen.
Bottom, there is a thing called breakout rooms, I see.
Oh, join breakout room. I see that.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, I'm assigned to healthcare.
Okay.
Ah, there we go. Carolina, thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Nice to meet you. See you.
No
Take care.
problem.
Yeah, I'd like to be, I was assigned to planning and membership. It's all real estate people. I wanted to be with entrepreneurs, life sciences people.
Okay, so I could switch you in a moment. Here you go.
Thank you.
So Carolina, do we have everybody back in the main room now, or are people still coming? No, they're still coming.
I think they're still coming. There's a few still left.
You hijacked us.
Sorry, Jerry.
Jerry, your voice is so distinct.
Well, you'll get put back into rooms again in a minute. I just wanted to kind of go over our programming and talk about what's next for next year. Are we all here, Carolina?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
I think
great.
I started.
Okay, so just wanted to give everybody a recap of 2020. Obviously, you know, things were very, very challenging. When the pandemic started in March, we were preparing to have our first quarterly breakfast, and we basically had to pivot and create an entirely new program. and then create programming on the spot for the rest of the year, which was challenging to do virtually. But most of you stuck with us. We had really, really good responses to our programming. Not only did people come during the scheduled time, but as you'll see in the quarterly newsletter, which will go out this week and which I've summarized, many people actually came back and watched the programs on YouTube after they were completed. And people are still coming back. As I was writing the newsletter last week, I noticed that the numbers were changing every day. So I think people have found it interesting, and a lot of people are benefiting from it. But obviously our flagship event was the symposium. This was extremely challenging because having a day-long or a 2-day-long event online, it's just not feasible for people to kind of tune in and leave all of their activities. So we had it over a 3-day period, mainly in the morning from 9 to 1, and then we provided some networking in the afternoon. And there were also exhibit booths and on-demand videos that were posted. That had a mixed success rate, so we'll try to do better next year, but hopefully we won't be virtual again. In any case, we had Genetics, Engineering, and Biotechnology News as our partner. They advertised it nationally and internationally, which we want to continue to do in the future. We had 253 registered, which was, about similar to our first symposium, so it wasn't too bad. And obviously Senator Schumer keynoted on the Endless Frontier Act, which is very exciting, with a related piece of legislation, America Leads Act. And between the two of them, they would invest $500 billion across the country for the discovery and development of key technologies, including biotech and related technologies. So that's very exciting. We had 48 speakers from the entire community in New York, from throughout New York. This was the first time that I think the community really came together, and all of the academic medical institutions participated, all of the incubators. We had many biotech and pharma companies also speak. Our closing keynote was given by Poe Bronson, who is the managing director of IndieBio and a partner at SOSV Ventures, talking about what is to come with engineering biology. Very exciting. We had 6 life science real estate developers give their assessment of the market, as I said before, and we heard from many of our successful companies that are really fueling the innovation pipeline. So all in all, a good overview of what went on. All of those videos are posted on YouTube, so I would encourage you to go back and look at them if you haven't seen them already. Next slide. We had 4 virtual quarterly events, including this networking session. We opened in May with an event on New York City's response to the COVID-19 crisis, highlighting how many of our members pivoted from their normal construction and design projects to building emergency facilities so that the New York healthcare system wouldn't be overwhelmed. And those stories are absolutely fascinating in terms of the heroic efforts that people made to build healthcare delivery systems in parking lots, in parks, and in stadiums, in hotels, on ships, and anything that they could press into service. I also heard from Columbia Engineering School of Engineering how they managed to design, develop, and manufacture 1 million masks in a week and a half, which was just astounding. These are astounding stories. And so it was a great way to start the year. In September, we focused on the new development at Einstein and Simone Healthcare, the Hutchinson Metro Center, which is building a medical renaissance in the Bronx. Very, very interesting story, and telling about one of the first CAR T-cell engineering facilities that exist in the city. And we hope to have more of these moving forward, but Einstein is building one of the first. And then 2 networking receptions. Carolina, next slide. We held a series of online webinars on a variety of topics that we hoped would be of interest to our members, starting with Vanquishing the Virus, where we spoke with Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology News about the top 160 COVID-19 drug and vaccine candidates. And we invited Regeneron and other New York City companies, including Mount Sinai Innovation Partners, to talk about the work that they were doing. That was followed by a sponsored seminar from SGA, which was very well attended. Over 300 people either attended that seminar or viewed the video on YouTube afterwards. And then we highlighted some of the other life science clusters throughout the country. Seattle and San Diego were the 2 that were highlighted in this particular webinar, but we plan to highlight others next year. And then we had biotech and pharma executives join us to talk about the shutdown stem and the effort to highlight the lack of diversity in the academic centers and in science across the country. And we'll pick that up as a new initiative for NYC Builds Bio next year. And then we began to highlight some of our accelerators, NYC Life Sciences, Biolabs at NYU, with some of the companies that were there that actually never shut down and raised money in the midst of the pandemic. We heard their stories. And then the Biodesign Challenge, which was started right here in New York City and financed by the real estate community. It was launched 4 years ago. They're now international with 45 universities participating. It's a very exciting story, and the products that they are designing are just remarkable. So I encourage you to go and take a look at those videos on YouTube as well. Next slide. Carolina, can we have the next slide? We also participated in some events from other organizations throughout the country. We participated in 2020 AURP BioHealth Caucus. They have members of innovation districts worldwide, and New York City was one of the ones that they highlighted, which we were very grateful to be a part of that in Atlanta. And then we were able to obtain tickets for our membership to obtain Commercial Observer Tenant Talk event on life sciences. And we also offered participation in the Seattle Life Science Innovation Northwest Conference. So we're going to be looking to expand the reach of our audience and allowing our members to participate in more activities on a reduced ticket basis. Next slide. And we partnered with the Building Congress to publish the first annual Life Science Real Estate Development White Paper. This is also posted on our website. You can see it. It's a very good analysis of the 2 sectors and also the pandemic response in New York. NYC Builds Bio, Mitch and I both chaired the life science discussion at the Building Congress Symposium in July. And so you can also access that video. Next slide. And our final quarterly newsletter will be coming out either this week or next, so please keep an eye out for that. It is just jam-packed with information. I think there were probably 50 articles that I posted in the newsletter to show the evolution of the life sciences marketplace from the end of April through the end of this year. And as I looked over it, I tried to figure out which ones I could eliminate, and I decided not to. And the reason is I wanted everyone to be able to explore for themselves the growth that we highlighted at the beginning of this networking meeting. So you can read all about it in the next newsletter, and I encourage you to do that. Next slide. These are the leadership committees. I would encourage all of you to sign up for one if you haven't signed up yet. We'll be reconstituting these in January, and you'll be hearing from the chairs about the number of meetings that they'll have and what the mission is, and this will really help the organization to grow and develop. Next slide. And then in 2021, obviously the next step for the rest of this year will be membership renewal and new member recruitment. So we'll be sending out notices to all of you and giving you a way to renew your membership or to sign up if you haven't signed up yet. Encourage you to do that. We're very excited. Last year, almost all of our members renewed their membership, and we very much appreciate that. In the coming year, we're going to be highlighting one member each month to allow each of you to basically talk about projects that you're involved with or technologies that you're working with or things that you think are unique to your firm. We'll also be discussing ways that we can organize to both pass the Endless Frontier Act and the America Leads Act, and then to apply for funds under those pieces of legislation. I already talked about the Diversity in Science, Medicine, and Academia initiative. And then 2021 programming. We have a programming and membership committee. Please reach out to the chairs of those committees if you have ideas that you would like to see highlighted next year in our programming. We're very happy to expand that and love your new ideas. So please do that. We have 15 more minutes of networking that everyone will be placed in random rooms this time around rather than pre-assigned. Feel free to move around the rooms as you see fit. And I just want to wish you and your family a very safe and healthy holiday and a happy new year. And I'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good, Nancy. Thank you.